morning, children. Welcome to your online English class. Today, we will begin with lesson 2 of Unit 1, Who's the Greatest? Children, you all must have read and studied about the great Mughal Emperor of India, Emperor Akbar. He was a great ruler. He was also known as Akbar the Great. He had 9 extraordinary ministers in his court, and Birbal was one of them. Emperor Akbar was very fond of him. This is because Birbal was very wise and witty. The lesson Who's the Greatest presents 2 such stories of Birbal's quick wit. Let us read the lesson together.
Who's the greatest? Emperor Akbar or Akbar the Great is known as one of the greatest rulers in the world, not just because he had a vast empire, a very strong army, untold wealth, but because he was a good human being. He cared for his subjects. He had great respect for scholars, writers, poets, and artists belonging to different religions. He was a patron of art and culture. The 9 gems or Navratnas in his court were famous. Many people believe that of these 9 gems, Birbal was the closest to the emperor's heart. Akbar loved to pose interesting questions or problems in his court, and Birbal never failed to come up with an equally interesting answer. We don't know whether all the Akbar and Birbal stories that we hear today have any basis in history. They have been handed down over generations, mainly by word of mouth. Here are 2 of them.
Let us understand the lesson. Emperor Akbar or Akbar the Great is known as one of the greatest rulers in the world. Not just because he had a vast empire, a very strong army, untold wealth, but because he was a good human being. Emperor Akbar is known as one of the greatest rulers, not because of his enormous wealth, huge kingdom and strong army, but because he was a good human being. What does the phrase untold wealth mean? It means the wealth that cannot be measured. It means Akbar had enormous wealth. He was rich and prosperous. He cared for his subjects. He had great respect for scholars, writers, poets, and artists belonging to different religions. He was a patron of art and culture. Emperor Akbar always looked after his people. He had great respect for art and culture. That is why he was a patron of art and culture. Now, what does the word patron mean? Patron is the one who appreciates, supports, and encourages art and culture. One of the important virtues of Akbar that is highlighted here is his religious tolerance. He treated scholars, writers, poets, artists belonging to different religions with great respect. He had always respected talented and skilled people without even caring of the religion that they belonged to. The 9 gems or Navratnas in his court were famous. Many people believe of these 9 gems, Birbal was the closest to Emperor's heart. Akbar loved to pose interesting questions or problems in his court, and Birbal never failed to come up with an equally interesting answer. Akbar had 9 extraordinary ministers in his court, which were known as 9 gems or Navratnas. Birbal was one such gem and was even closer to the emperor's heart. He was greatly liked by the emperor. Birbal's wisdom and witty solutions to the questions put by Emperor Akbar had always impressed him and made him the emperor's favorite. We don't know whether all the Akbar and Birbal stories that we hear today have any basis in history. They have been handed down over generations, mainly by word of mouth. We hear Akbar and Birbal stories even today, but we really don't know whether they are true, as they have been passed from generation to generation through word of mouth. What do we mean by the phrase word of mouth? When information is passed to people by simply narrating it to them, we say it is passed through word of mouth, that is verbally. The Akbar and Birbal stories have been narrated by people to others. That is how the stories became popular. That's all for today, children. We will continue the lesson tomorrow. Now, you have to write the words and meanings in your notebook or note sheet. Refer to the PDF file that is attached below. Remember to write neatly. Open a fresh page. Write the date in the margin, the name of the lesson as the heading. Write down new words and meanings neatly as shown in the PDF file. Thank you, children.